What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In my last video, we talked about how I personally describe my bisexuality, what being bisexual means to me, and I got a lot of people in my comments and in my DMs after this video asking for me to make a video about my personal experiences with men and with women, and if I preferred one gender over the other when it came to relationships and dating and things like that. So that's what this video is about. I'm just going to be going over my personal experiences with men and my personal experiences with women, and you know, like some pros and cons from being with each gender that I've discovered throughout the years. Again, this is not supposed to be like a generalization. These statements are not supposed to be like blanket statements. Not every man is going to behave like this, and not every woman is going to behave like this either. It's just what I've experienced myself. We've got the disclaimer out of the way, and I do want to be totally upfront with you guys. I have only had one serious boyfriend in my entire history of dating, and that was in middle school. I had a boyfriend in like 6th grade, so I'm not really up to date on what it's like dating a man as a grown adult. I have had like hookups with guys, and obviously I flirted with guys, and you know, I've just chatted with them a lot over the years, but yeah, I haven't had really like a serious adult boyfriend. So what I say about men is mainly going to be just on the side of like how I felt when I was chatting with them, when I was flirting with them, you know, in the hookup scene. I will also go ahead and let you guys know that I am kind of more partial towards women. I do prefer to have relationships with women, both romantically and sexually, and that mainly has to do with some problems that I've had in the past with my dysphoria and like the power imbalance that I felt when it came to being with cis men. I will discuss a little bit of that when I get into my actual points, but I just wanted to go ahead and preface that. To get started, I am going to dive right in and just tell you guys some of the things I've noticed, good and bad, about men when it comes to being bisexual and being an openly trans guy in the bisexual dating scene. Now, if you're in the dating scene and you are specifically experienced with cis men, cis gay men, you'll probably agree with me on this, but men have such a lower level of like social awareness, I guess. Like, they just don't pick up on social cues quite as well as a woman does, and this is especially noticeable for me because as an openly bisexual transgender man, my experience is a lot different than like, say, a bisexual cis guy's experience would be, or a gay cis guy's experience would be. And so a lot of times I have found that when I was speaking with men, they were much more likely to ask me a more invasive question, or they would be much more likely to say something out of pocket in regards to like my sexual history or me being transgender, my medical history and things like that. They're much more likely to do or say things like that than a woman would have ever been. And that was just something that I noticed. Again, it might just be because I'm an openly transgender guy, and so for them, I was kind of like a unicorn, you know, I guess. Like, they've never met somebody like me before, and so they were just bursting at the seams with all these questions and remarks that they just felt they had to get out there, which is fine, you know. Like, I'm cool with curiosity. I'm open to answering questions and things like that, but sometimes it was just the way that they were phrasing their questions and the way that they were kind of like almost leering at me through the phone. Like, it was just a bit uncomfortable in certain situations. Talking to men is very black and white. It's very yes or no with guys. Either it's no, and they're like not okay with me being transgender, they're not interested in me at all, they're like, ew, no, like that, you know. And again, we're getting into the genital preference thing, but when you're speaking to gay men, cis gay men, most of them are not attracted to vaginas, and so when I told them that I was trans and that I hadn't had bottom surgery yet, they were almost like immediately turned off. So it was either that end of the spectrum, or we went to the other end of the spectrum where some guys were a little bit too okay with me being trans. Like, some cis guys were a little bit too into the fact that I looked like a man and I sound like a man, but I haven't had bottom surgery yet, and so it was like a new toy for them, basically, like something they'd never experienced before. And a lot of times it would kind of breach almost into like chaser territory. For those of you who don't know what a chaser is, it's just somebody that like specifically seeks out transgender people because they have like a fetish for trans people. Just really gross, icky stuff. It was really difficult for me to find cis guys that were like a happy medium. Like, they weren't disgusted by my genitalia. They were just like indifferent to it. Like they didn't give a fuck that I was trans, and they didn't give a fuck that I hadn't had bottom surgery yet. They were just attracted to me, and that was enough for them. It was really difficult to kind of find a guy who was in that middle ground there. Again, when I'm talking about men, like they're just not as emotionally intelligent as women are. And I feel like since I lived 18 years of my life presenting as female and just living my life basically as a woman, I understand what it takes to communicate effectively and support a partner emotionally, and I feel like men are just really slacking in that area, I guess. It's really hard to get a guy to communicate unless he's already done a lot of like internal work and he understands what emotional labor is, and you know, it's just a lot, and sometimes it feels like all of the work is on my shoulders because they're just kind of boring. Like there's no depth to the relationship, it's very surface level. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. You can let me know in the comments if that makes sense. That obviously depends on the person, and maybe it was just because of how I was meeting these guys, like using Grindr and using apps like that. That wasn't the best place to be seeking out relationships with men, but it is what it is, and that's just how it happened. But yeah, and then the final point that I have to make about being with guys is, again, just kind of based on my own personal struggles with my dysphoria and my sense of masculinity. Like, whenever I was with other cis guys, I always kind of feel this like sense of power imbalance almost, especially if they know that I'm trans. If I'm stealth, this doesn't really bother me as much because they don't know. But if they are aware that I'm transgender, I'm always kind of like worrying in the back of my mind whether or not they see me as an equal or if they see me as like less of a man, if that makes sense. And I'm sure that you can piece together from that context like how that would affect hooking up with somebody, how that would affect like my confidence levels and things like that. So again, it's not like a blanket statement. Like this, the things that I'm saying here does not apply to every single man. It definitely doesn't apply to trans men. I've got a lot of trans friends who are very emotionally intelligent, very socially aware. Of course, they would never ask any invasive questions or things like that because they know what it's like to be on that side of things. So you may have experienced different things with different guys and different methods of meeting guys and so on and so forth. So if that's the case, you know, good for you. This is just, unfortunately, my own experience. Now, my experience with women is a lot more in-depth, I guess. The main thing that I've noticed with women, especially since, like I said earlier, I lived most of my life so far as a woman or as female presenting, I guess, is just the emotional labor is just so much less. Women are so much better at communicating their feelings and communicating their wants and their needs. But that's kind of a double-edged sword, and we'll get into that later. But basically, like we talked about earlier, how I feel very dysphoric occasionally with cis guys, or how I feel like I'm always comparing myself to their level of masculinity versus my level of masculinity, and I'm always worried about whether or not they see me as a real man. I've never felt like that with any woman that I've ever been around or been with before. I've never had a woman or a girl tell me that she wasn't open to being with me because I was trans. There may have been other reasons why she didn't want to be with me, but me being trans was never one of those. It's always been much easier to relate to women than to men. Like there's just so much more that I can emotionally connect to when I'm with a woman than when I was with men or around men. And this kind of ties into the same topic of conversation, but I just generally feel like women are a bit more caring, they're more respectful, and they're just a lot more like thoughtful, not only about their own needs, but about their partner's needs as well. Women like to talk about their problems straight up, whereas men kind of like to deal with it in silence, and that can lead to a lot of tension. Because of that, because there's a deeper level of communication, and because there's a deeper level of emotional connection, the whole relationship in itself just feels more intimate, and it feels like a deeper connection between the two of us. I don't feel the need to perform a certain way when I'm with a woman. I don't feel like I have to portray a specific level or a specific type of masculinity. Like, for example, I've been with my current partner, my current girlfriend, for years. We've been together since 2019, and in the beginning when we were long distance, it was easy for me to kind of like put up a cool guy facade and like pretend that I was this really chill dude, like laid back. But then when we met in person, we met for the first time in 2019. And I've never once felt that she was judging me based on my likes, my dislikes, my sense of style, my taste of music. Like she was never once judging my body or judging my sense of manliness, you know? Like I never felt like she was comparing me to other men, which is something that I didn't feel whenever I was talking to actual guys. It's just such a deeper connection, I feel like. I will say the only downside, I guess, that I personally feel when it comes to being with women is it is much more mentally involved than being with a man is. And like I said earlier, the communication and the emotional connection is a lot deeper with women, but like I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's great and you feel so much more intimate with this person, you feel so much more connected, such a deeper connection with this person, but it can get mentally taxing when you have to constantly worry about, you know, okay, I have to communicate how I'm feeling, I have to be sure that I'm being open, I have to be sure that we're maintaining this emotional connection, I have to make sure that she's not feeling neglected or that I'm not feeling neglected. Like, you're always taking steps to maintain that emotional connection, whereas with men, it's a lot less work to maintain the emotional connection. Like, guys require so much less to feel loved and to feel appreciated and to feel that connection than a woman does. So that's really the only difference that I've noticed, is when you're with a woman, there's more effort involved, but the payoff is a lot better than when you're with a man. There's a lot less effort involved, but the payout is just way lower than what it is with a woman. Again, obviously I don't have a lot of experience with the whole dating a cis guy or even a trans guy at this stage in my life where I'm a fully adult transitioned guy, you know what I mean? But just from speaking with other bisexual people, speaking with other trans people, this seems to be the general consensus. So if you have a different opinion, feel free to comment it down below. I would love to hear from other people. I would love to hear about y'all's experiences. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's had a different experience than what I have. If you guys are still here at this point in the video, thank you so much for sticking around and listening to me ramble on about this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was what you were looking for if you're one of the people that was asking for this. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you did like it, and subscribe to my channel. I'm really trying to hit 8,000 subscribers by the end of September. Since September is my birthday month, that would be a really great birthday gift from you guys to me, just saying. But anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in next week's video.